Podcasting from Singapore and broadcasting all around the world. You're listening to the Ignite EdTech Podcast with Craig Kemp, taking the pulse of educators from all over the globe and bringing what you need every week. When you need answers, you go to the experts. Created by an educator, for educators, and streaming to the world. Now, over to your host, Craig Kemp.
Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Ignite EdTech Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Kemp, and I'm thrilled to have your support. As most of you know, I continue to work with the incredibly talented Mark Quinn to improve the final audio quality of this podcast. He has his own podcast production studio that provides editing and mastering services to content creators. To connect with Mark, please see the details in the podcast notes below. And if you haven't followed his Make a Difference podcast, I highly encourage you to do so in your podcast channel of choice. Last week, we highlighted the third Ignite EdTech learning principle, which is creativity over consumption. I encourage you to go back and listen to last week's episode to learn more. This week, I wanted to highlight the fourth Ignite EdTech learning principle, collaboration. As we explore the ways of moving forward post-pandemic and how to use technology to enhance the learning experience for everyone, one factor always comes up in conversation. How can we use technology to connect and engage learners in collaborative experiences? Technology should be engineering the engagement so we can create something better together than by ourselves. Using technology to work together is what is important. We should be aiming for collaboration, particularly in a one-to-one device environment, as there's a bias away from collaboration when we start to use technology in this way. We can use technology to create learning experiences that promote this, as it is a highly sought-after capability in both OECD and World Economic Forum reports. As we develop our own learning and that of the learners we work with, keep in mind the idea of collaboration. Last week, I encouraged you to think about how you promote the idea of creation over consumption. Thank you for sharing as always. Check out the social streams for more. After sharing the fourth Ignite EdTech learning principle, collaboration, this week, I want to ask you how you demonstrate this skill in your daily practice. How do you ensure that your learners have opportunities to collaborate? What tools do you use to collaborate and connect with learners globally? And what does this look like in your context? I'd love to learn with you and from you in this space. Please share with me via our Ignite EdTech social streams. I look forward to hearing your responses soon. A tool that has positively impacted the authentic and purposeful use of technology into classrooms and meeting rooms that I have worked in is My Simple Show. My Simple Show is an easy and effective way to make explainer videos, something that we have all been doing in so many unique ways over the past year. Over this time, I've been thinking about engagement and how learners that I work with feel when partaking in my experiences. I want them to be engaged, and I want it to be different and unique. That's where I discovered My Simple Show, and have had experiences that have been super positive since I started using it. With Simple Show Video Maker, you can create a video with ease. Use Simple Show Video Maker in the classroom with your students or contribute to open educational resources. Introduce, summarize, and explain topics worth sharing. A great explainer video can have a huge impact. It allows you to reach your audience and get your message across in a simple and engaging way. It doesn't matter if you need to communicate in a professional environment, teach your students, or promote important issues that you feel strongly about. With the power of simplicity, storytelling, and images that stay in your mind, your message will get heard. Their education promotions allow any educators to use it for free for up to 50 students. And the pricing plan is relatively cheap and simple for educators wanting to take it to the next level. I highly recommend that you take a look at videomaker.simpleshow.com. The link is in the description below. Last week, we talked about creativity in the workplace. If you're interested in learning more, go back and listen to last week's episode. This week, I wanted to focus on the art of collaboration. When I was at school in my small town of Nelson, New Zealand, education wasn't just in the four walls of my classroom. We would be outside, in nature, and truly experiencing learning through an inquiry lens. I loved that the majority of my teachers took us outside to read, to explore, to climb trees, and of course to inquire. The art of collaboration was alive and well. We would work together on projects, inquire into new areas of learning, and while some people thought that this was just our teachers being lazy, it was the most memorable time of my schooling, something that drove me in some way, shape, or form to be doing what I'm doing today. When I think about collaboration in its most simple form, it is the action of working with someone to produce something. That was pretty much the reality of my childhood. We didn't have devices, so if I wanted to collaborate or play with my friends or classmates, I'd call them. Or I'd bike to their house. We'd go to the local school, we'd play, we'd explore. Most importantly, we'd have fun. Most of which are sadly missing from the majority of our youth's experiences today. In my opinion, collaboration is a huge part of this. The explicit teaching of the skill is something that we often forget. Nowadays, in a world that's connected by the internet, we must remember to explicitly teach our kids collaboration skills that we learnt in our day by doing when we were kids. Not only should we explicitly be teaching these skills and why we need to collaborate, but we should put them into situations that require students to collaborate without their hands being held, to truly understand what collaboration feels like and what's required for it to be successful. An important part of this collaboration process is now online, so we need to work within this space too. The art of collaboration is different when we're connected online, but it's still just as powerful. This can be seen when students are forced to collaborate in scenarios like doing a mystery Skype, or chatting to an expert or another class on the other side of the world. When we think about collaboration, our understanding is now much more broad than it was when we were younger. We need tools that allow us as leaders of learning and students who are doing the learning to easily be able to connect, engage, and collaborate anytime and anywhere at the touch of a button. As you create learning experiences, I want you to think about how you are allowing opportunities for learners to collaborate in multiple ways and how you are explicitly teaching them how and why it's an important life skill. Please share your ideas and tips about collaboration and what you're doing to be successful so that we can discuss them on next week's show. I'd love to hear from you. Every week, I bring you a short interview with some of my Edji heroes, an engaging learning experience with someone who makes a difference in education every day, with a particular focus or angle towards educational technology. This week, I had the pleasure of chatting with Jennifer Gonzalez and Reyna Lazarou. Let's have a listen to the chats. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Jennifer Gonzalez, who you may know as @CultOfPedagogy on Twitter with almost 150,000 followers. Jennifer is a teacher, pre-service teacher trainer, keynote speaker, and global education guru. She works with teachers all over the world to create a community where people work together to create greatness in themselves and others. I'm constantly inspired by the work that Jennifer does, and as a long-time follower, I'm thrilled to be able to share her expertise with you today. Jennifer, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Are you ready to talk about education and technology integration?
Yes, I am, Craig. Thank you so much for having me on.
Right, let's go. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your current role and what inspires you to do what you do?
Well, I guess I would describe my current role as a blogger and a podcaster. I have got my website, Cult of Pedagogy, and so every other week I write a blog post, and that also becomes a podcast. So sometimes those are interviews with other people, and sometimes it's just a solo thing. And my main goal is to help teachers do their work better. And so that ends up looking at like a lot of different things. Sometimes I'm talking about specific teaching strategies. Sometimes I'm talking about educational research, sometimes it's technology, and other times I'm just peeking inside one particular teacher's classroom to look at something that they're doing that's working really well for them, and I want to shine a light on it so other people can try it.
It's fantastic to see that. You know, I've been following you for a long time, and the advice you give is inspirational, and it's often just in time as well for teachers to be able to make the most of what they're doing in their classroom. What's your best advice for educators in relation to EdTech?
I have a ton of it, so I had to just pick one thing. And I think right now, we have so much out there to choose from, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed. So I would advise teachers to just get the most from the tools that you already have, rather than looking for new things. Because, I think teachers think that they have to be using all the new things, but a lot of our existing tools, I'm still kind of amazed by how much I can just get out of G Suite and just docs and slides and sheets, just those things, and they're getting more and more capabilities and add-ins. So, I mean, there's a lot that I can say about technology, but I'm going to stick with that one for right now.
Yeah, I think it's good advice, particularly during current times as well, as we've all been through so much over the past 12 months. And, the next 12 months are going to be just as challenging and trying. It's all about making sure that we do the right thing to ourselves for our own well-being. And Jennifer, you've done so much already in your career and you've impacted so many lives. What's your next big goal in your career? What do you want to do or achieve that you haven't been able to do yet?
I really want to write a book, and I had started to before COVID hit. I had started it, and I really want it to be kind of a big. I mean, I've even got a name for it. It's going to be called the Cult of Pedagogy Manual, and it's really intended to be almost like a manual on teaching, like how to teach people things. And I would love to see it in university classes and everything. So it was going to be a large project, and I had just gotten started. And then when COVID hit, I just felt that I needed to change a lot of my classroom resources to make them mobile friendly or remote friendly. I had to do new research and articles on distance learning. So that whole thing just got put off. But yeah, I can't keep doing what I'm doing at the pace I'm doing it forever. And so one of my goals is to put some of the things that I have learned into something that is going to last longer than a website. Because even if I keep my website hosted past my own active work, nothing lasts quite as long as a book does.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. Make sure you do it, because I think I speak on behalf of everyone listening today that we want to see it. We're all inspired by what you do, and we'd love to learn a little bit more and have that in the hands of people that are going to be teaching our future kids. Tell us a little bit more about Cult of Pedagogy. What inspired you to create this, and what can we gain from engaging in your resource?
I'll answer the second part first. What you can get from it depends a lot on what your current role is. So I try to do things that are for like leaders and teach them more about the things that teachers need from them. If you teach young kids, then I've got things on there. So I really do try to reach a broad audience. And what inspired me to create it was that I was teaching teachers, and I wanted to keep doing that. I was doing it as just an adjunct part-timer, non-doctoral, instructor at a university. And I realized if I wanted to keep doing it, I was either going to have to get a doctorate and do it seriously or not. And then I started to learn a little bit about blogging and that sort of thing. And I realized I could probably take it on the road and sort of teach teachers outside of the university that I was working in. And I'm really glad that I decided to go that route, because I think I reach way more teachers this way than I would if I was just teaching at a small university.
Yeah, agreed. And the work that you do with this resource, it's viewed by thousands of people every day all over the world. And whether you know it or not, it does inspire change. And it's a resource even here in Asia that people talk about quite frequently when I work with them. So congratulations on what you do, because your voice is being heard all over the world. Let's jump into some quick fire questions. What's your one word for 2021?
So this is going to sound really lame, because that's sort of all we've been doing this last year, but it's pause, Pause. And what I mean by that is, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what's coming, in terms of us kind of getting back to normal. And I think we just need to stop and think through some of our decisions instead of just automatically returning back to our old habits and everything. So with everything we do, let's pause, let's think, let's reflect, to be present, and try to make the best decisions for ourselves and for our kids.
What's your favorite EdTech book or resource?
So I have to say it is my own book, which is The Teacher's Guide to Tech, which I put out every January. And it is an encyclopedia of technology. I created it to help teachers stop feeling so overwhelmed. And it's completely digital. So it's got links out to all the websites. All the tools are organized by category. I actually use it as a user after I've made it for the rest of the year to look things up.
I love it. And we'll make sure the link to it is in the notes below as well. What's your go-to EdTech tool that the listeners need to try?
I feel like a broken record with this one, and I've been using it for such a long time, but it's Voxer. which I'm not sure if you all are using it much out there, but my sister actually did a semester or a year in Thailand, and she and I talked on Voxer all the time. It's sort of like WhatsApp, but I know there's a lot of people on WhatsApp just use text, and the beauty of Voxer really is that you leave voice messages for people, but it's a back and forth, just like a chat room, except it's in voice instead. And I've got a couple of people that I talk to on Voxer very regularly and have formed very close friendships that I wouldn't have if it were not for this tool.
That's amazing to hear that. I've heard it a lot. It's a tool that I haven't delved into yet, but I'm definitely going to. Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram for your own learning, and why?
It has become Twitter, and I resisted that for a while, but I feel like I've really learned how to use Twitter now. And I think for me, the main thing that has helped a lot is creating lists where you're sort of curating just specific groups of people that represent a certain subgroup for you. And then when you click on that, you can only see tweets from that group. And then that sort of helps to slow down the stream a little bit and just give you what you're looking for. I've got a group, for example, that I've created that just focus on equity related issues. So when I'm trying to kind of keep up with the news and everything that's on those topics, I just go to that feed, and I always learn so much from just the things that people tweet out.
What is one daily habit or practice that helps you enjoy, progress, and succeed in your career?
It is saying no, which I do a lot. Saying no to a lot of the things that come up, a lot of opportunities come up, a lot of distractions come up. And I have always found that I have better days and more satisfying days when I say no to as many things as possible, so that I can just concentrate on a few things and do them really well.
I'm just so pleased you didn't say no to this. So thank you so much. If you were to have any job in the world, Jennifer, what would it be and why?
I just assumed that you meant like beyond what I'm doing, because I love what I'm doing right now. I would love to be a graphic designer. I've always played around with it. And I think I have sort of a very bare minimum kind of level of talent with it, but I've had no training. And I think if I were to start over, I would do that.
That's cool. What's your favorite education-focused quote?
So this is a Haim Janot quote, and it's a little bit long, but I'll read it fast. I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element in my classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power to make a student's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated and a student humanized or dehumanized. And I had that hanging over my desk in my first teaching job. Like, it's been meaningful to me for so many years.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Thanks for sharing that. What's the best way, Jennifer, for the listeners to follow and connect with you? You've shared so much here today and been an inspiration for so many that I know that they're going to want to get in touch with you.
So the hub for everything is cultofpedagogy.com. And then from there, you can find my Twitter and my Facebook and links to, I've got some online courses and I have a TPT store. And so all of those things can be found if you start at that starting point.
Awesome. We'll make sure the links to everything is in the podcast notes as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Jennifer.
Okay, Craig, thank you.
Today, I have the honor of speaking with Reyna Lazarou, who you may know is at Ms. Reyna2 on Twitter. Reyna and I have been connected for some time and both work in the international school space in Asia. Reyna is now based in China and is an innovation coach at the American School of Guangzhou. Reyna, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Are you ready to talk about education and technology integration?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Let's go. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your current role and what inspires you to do what you do?
Sure thing. As mentioned, I'm an elementary innovation coach here at the American International School of Guangzhou, and I work with students all the way from preschool to grade 5. And I think I am most inspired by helping students discover interests and talents and helping them find ways to show and share that.
That's a really cool description. You know, there's a lot of people listening here today that are in the EdTech or innovation space or just classroom teachers. What's your best advice for educators in relation to educational technology?
I would say do less better. Find some skills, like develop some skills that are can be used in a wide range of contexts. So basic graphic design or basic video editing, you can use it so many different ways and in so many different contexts. So
I think that's fantastic advice, especially now during the pandemic and trying to figure out, how do we get from A to B? We're all taking it in small steps. I think that advice is fantastic. You've done quite a lot already in your career, Reyna. What's your next big goal? What do you want to do or achieve that you haven't yet been able to do?
One main goal that I have is to scale change within my school. We have adopted the ISTE standards, and we've been working with those for quite some time, but really gaining traction and finding ways to have that align with our ATL and PYP, creating some sort of school-wide plans for scaling up what we're doing with technology and innovation, and having it support those learning outcomes is what we're after right now. So it's a big job, but working closely with admin and curriculum teams has been helpful. So that's kind of on the horizon as the next big thing here.
Nice. And you recently moved to China this year and a new school. A lot of people listening are interested in the international school space, either they're in it or that they're considering going to it. Tell us a little bit about this experience as an international educator and why listeners who are thinking about international education should consider it.
I'll say that it's not for everyone, but for those who are sort of playing with this idea, there's no better time than now to make that leap. I think that it's an opportunity to redefine what it means to be a citizen, right? A global citizen. And I think the luxury of technology is that you can be anywhere and feel connected to people doing the same kind of work that you are. So I know a lot of my PLN is international educators, but I always look to connect with those in, maybe back in the States where I'm from, who are saying, hey, how'd you get started? And saying, give it a shot. I think it's a great learning opportunity, and there's some amazing work being done internationally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My wife and I moved to Singapore 9 years ago now, and we expected to come here for 2 years, and we've been here ever since. We're addicted to it. We love the travel, we love the people, we love the mix of cultures. It's the people we meet are incredible, and I couldn't advocate for it enough. And I think that you're a really good example of someone that's jumped into that and been incredibly successful. In your role, Reyna, you're an innovation coach, which is a pretty cool title. How do you engage teachers to be more innovative in your role as a coach? And what do you do to support reluctant teachers?
I think a large part of my role is spent in the planning, right? And so collaborative planning is an integral part of my job, and having the ability to look at a unit and saying, how might we think about this differently? How might we engage with different subjects, and doing some transdisciplinary stuff that you may not think of right off the top of the unit, right? So just having different perspectives that you're looking at things from, but also getting familiar with some of the things that we have in inventory. And I find that giving teachers the opportunity to play really invites them to gain confidence and skills with new technologies, new equipment, those kinds of things. And then you can see the transferability of a lot of these things across disciplines.
Let's jump into some quick fire questions, Reyna. The first thing that comes to your head, and then tell us a little bit about why. What's your hashtag one word for 2021?
Strength. I'm having to really dig deep and find strength within myself this year. I've been tremendously challenged through the COVID situation, and I'm separated from my husband right now. And so every day is an act of strength, just to, harness what's inside and pull it out and use it for good.
That's incredibly powerful, and you're doing a fantastic job at it too. What's your favorite EdTech book or resource?
I would have to say George Couros. I like Innovate Inside the Box because we often work within parameters, and it gives us some flexibility within that.
And what's your go-to EdTech tool that the listeners need to try that maybe they haven't heard of before?
Oh gosh, we used Edji with a PD a couple weeks ago that I actually learned from Jordan Benedict a few years ago, and it's been wonderful. Annotation tool, jotting down thinking from a text, great way to collect data.
Nice. Edji. We'll make sure the link to that is in the podcast notes as well. Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram for your own learning, and why?
Professional learning, Twitter, hands down. I can't speak highly enough about engaging with the PLN on Twitter. It's just been tremendous for my growth and learning.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's my go-to as well. What's one daily habit or practice that helps you enjoy, progress, and succeed in your career?
Gratitude. A daily gratitude practice, yeah.
And if you were to have any job in the world, what would it be and why?
Oh gosh. If you had asked 8-year-old me, it would have been, Madonna. But these days, I really think I am in the job that I want and love. So I'm very fortunate to have found it.
That's really cool. What's your favorite education-focused quote?
Have the courage to suck at something new.
I like it a lot. That is brilliant. Reyna, you've given us so much inspiring information in our short chat today, and the listeners are going to want to know how to connect and follow with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I would say Twitter is my go-to. You'll find me there at Miss Reyna too.
Reyna, thank you so much for your time today. As always, it's inspirational. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
Next week, join me for episode 46 of the Ignite EdTech Podcast, when I'm joined by Jenny Majera and Andy Cope. One of the things I love doing is giving away prizes, so thank you for tuning in, listening, and hopefully following the Ignite EdTech Podcast. Last week, I gave away 3 Shapegrams memberships from Tony Vincent. To win, you needed to complete the form at bit.ly/edtechwin. The winners have already been contacted directly by me, and they are Bradley Cates, Santiago Meza, and Aidan Quinn. Congratulations to you all. This week, I'm giving away 2 licenses for the 2021 Teacher's Guide to Tech from Jennifer Gonzalez. To win these incredible prizes, you need to go to bit.ly/edtechwin and complete the simple form, which will take you less than a minute to do. The link is in the description below. Competition closes on Wednesday the 21st of April, and the winners will be contacted directly by me and announced on next Friday's podcast episode. Good luck. Thank you for being an extremely important part of the Ignite EdTech podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please smash that follow button and share it with your colleagues, friends, and families. Please also remember to spend 2 minutes to rate the podcast so we can reach even more educators and EdTech enthusiasts globally. Please share your favorite part of today's show by tagging me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And don't hesitate to ask me questions that I can answer in an upcoming episode. Remember, you have the chance to win as well. Check out the links in the description for more, and I'll see you again next week.
If you liked today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And be in the drawing to win prizes every week. If you know others that would enjoy the show, please hit that share button and brighten their day. Join us again next week for your weekly EdTech hit with @Mr. Kemp NZ. We'll see you again soon.